All right, let's start from AYIN. 5 lines from the beginning of Nun Tes. This is in continuum of the statement that we said that in Pnimi there are absolutely obviously differences, because Pnimi relates internally, internalized in every recipient. Therefore, there's clearly going to be differences how he relates and what he expresses to each recipient according to his ability, according to his need. That's Pnimi. And that's how Sechel functions. Where there is a Gashmedike Sechel and a Ruchnitike Sechel. How you understand each thing is very different. And then there is a makif. Makif means that which is the super provider for all functions. He provides for the terrain, if I may say so, for the Pnimi. The Pnimi requires a terrain where it functions, or a makif is what provides for it. What is the terrain element for the Pnimi? The terrain is that the Pnimi, although each thing explains itself and functions independently, but it has to have a general, welcoming environment, a meaningful environment. Like we said, a table in the desert does not function like a table. It's an abuse of the table. Even in the street, it is an abuse of the table. A table becomes a table only when it is in a home, and in the home itself, it's in the dining room. This is where the table assumes its full presence. The same is true in Koiches HaPnimim in Sechel. Sechel too requires an environment. What are you trying to understand? What is it about? What is the significance of what you're learning? Without significance, the Sechel cannot delve into it. That is the makif. This is the terrain, the basic environment, the context that is provided for the Pnimi. And in fact, without a context, the Pnimi cannot express itself to the fullest. Two times 2 equals to 4. is a meaningless statement unless you're talking about something. You have two people, and you have to have a place for each one. There has to be some kind of a meaningful context. That's when you're talking. That's when the Sechel begins to function. The blanket, meaningless, and those contentless arithmetic statement is an empty statement. Does not engage the Sechel.
It sort of works on a physical level, but it's not engaging the Sechel. Is that fair to say?
It can work in physical, but talking about engaging the Sechel.
Yeah. Doesn't.
There's no Sechel in it. In Torah there are two expressions, Sechel and Machshava. At best, that contextless thought or logic is called Machshava. It's a thought process. It is not an insight of Sechel or Neshama insight. It's on the thought level. So we said throughout that in Pnimi each detail is identified as itself. And it has to have its own environment, its own context. Whereas a makif encompasses everything equally. Because the makif, as we understood it, because the makif is not affected what it encompasses. That's why it's called the makif. It hovers above.
It is not affected, or it does not affect?
It is not affected. It hovers above. It's not affected by what it encompasses. The illustration, the example that is given in Chassidus for this is the fact that light can shine equally on a brilliant piece of furniture, on the brilliant ground, brilliant landscape, and it can also shine equally on a swamp. The light is not affected by the fact that it is a swamp that it reveals. Because it's a makif. We will in Mitzvah soon discuss the basis and the source of makif, but we're not up to that as yet. Yeah. So therefore, having said all that, the Rebbe asks, however, this is in Oisnan Tez, we need to understand, since that in fact there are different makifim, there are different levels of makifim. such as makif of asiya, makif of atzilus. In Chassidus, in Kabbalah, the makif is known as kesser. That's not a kesser, which is a crown, which surrounds the head, over and above the head. It is not something internal in the head. But then at the same time, the kesser makes a profound statement that this entity, this head, is being crowned. This head contains something of such tremendous value, tremendous significance, that we put a crown on top of it. We have tremendous respect for that which is in this head, to the extent that we put a crown on it. That is wonderful. But on the other hand, and the Rebbe points out, there are different crowns, different level of crowns. There's a crown that's kesser de atzilus, kesser de bria, kesser de asiya. The challenging thing for us is to understand the principle of a kesser de asiya, which we actually discussed. And it is important for us to understand that even asiya has a kesser. Asiya means action, deed. To take our simple examples, you have a house, and you design the house, with different rooms, and each room has its own design for its own function. And then you identify the furnishings that will go into this room. This is what will reveal what this room is about. And then you identify further how you're going to lay the furnishings out in this room. The table will go here, the chairs will go here, the bookcase will go here, and so forth. This is all still on the Sechel and conceptual level. Then there is what's called asiya. One can conceptualize and can view, can project what the room will look like if you did such and such. This projection, this ability to project what the room is going to look like and what the significance of that room, this is still on the Sechel level. Or even higher, maybe on the Rotzen level. Because it still expresses a certain human insight and human experience. Then there is a final state in all that, where you actually bring the furnishings inside physically into this room, which requires labor and requires effort to bring the furnishings in and put them out in the right way. So the right way has been identified by the Sechel, and the significance of it is felt in the Rotzen, in the kesser. But ultimately, taking a piece of furniture and physically bringing it into the room and placing it where it belongs, that we would think has no phenomenon of kesser or of a rotzen. This is simply an action without any life to it. And for this we're saying that this is not correct.
Why would you think that stage has no life to it?
Because this is just, it does not make its own statement. All it does is that which you have already identified in Sechel and in Rotz.
Right, which seems to be saying it is inspired by the planning and the conceptual context, and then you have the moment of actually doing it. So it seems very apparent that there is a crown to this moment of action.
This is what I'm trying to focus on. How do you define this moment of action? The action does not in its own make a further statement beyond that which you had planned. A further inspiration, a certain value, meaning, message. You're merely following through all that had been decided prior to that. But you're right, this is exactly what we're shooting at. What is the kesser de asiya? Which in simple terms means the final moment of when you take the piece of furniture and bring it into the room. Typically, it would be very common that this moment of bringing it into the room, you actually have hired help to do it. You cannot do it on your own, perhaps. There may be too many pieces, something too heavy. And you can only direct them to do it. You're supervising their actions. The action itself is performed by whoever it may be. Yet, this action and the stepping down to the point where to make sure that it happens on this stage, this is a rotzen of its own. This is called a kesser. Kesser de asiya. It's an interesting human experience. When one can have a plan, an idea, and he identifies every detail of the plan. And he prepares all the pieces that are necessary to follow through on the idea, on the details. The din is, it's always nice that we came from Padi Halach. The halach is like this, that if you buy a house, and we know that halachically to acquire and to change hands or change ownership from one to the other, it has to be what's called the kinyan, an action that culminates, that completes this transaction. And the kinyan, this final action, is what transfers, has the effect of the transfer of ownership from one to the other. All negotiations and even signing of papers, it does not make the final transfer. The transfer is done when a kinyan is executed. And what is a kinyan consist in? There are all different kinds of kinyanim. One kinyan is, as the Gemara says, you go into the house and you unlock the door and you lock the door.
You enter and lock the door behind you?
You exit the house and and lock the door behind you.
Uh-huh.
There's a pasuk in Pasha Pekudei, the end of Shmois. This pasuk always it draws up a tremendous inspiration by me. It speaks about the conclusion of making the Mishkan. And it describes how Eden had done all the details of the Mishkan. They built this, they made this, everything was perfect. Moshe observed everything and says, how wonderful, they did exactly what they were told to do. To the extent that Moshe got up and he blessed them. He should be blessed for all this action. Then after that, became the time where you have to actually inaugurate the Mishkan itself. Bring Mishkan itself to action, which consisted in bringing all the furnishings that the Mishkan contains, all the kelim, inside the Mishkan. And he describes how Moshe was the one who put together the last pieces, the final stage of the Mishkan. The Aron, with the Poreches, with the Menorah, with the Shulchan, how he put the carrying sticks, the Adanim and so forth, and then the walls of the Mishkan, how he put it, Adanim are the bases he put out here. It describes how everything, Moshe put everything together, put everything back in put it together, put all the pieces of the Mishkan, for example, considered of boards and Adanim and so forth. He put everything together. After having done all that, it says in the pasuk an interesting pasuk. Vaychal Moshe hamloch. Moshe completed the mloch, the work, the job. This Vaychal Moshe's hamlocha four final words of the entire description are very powerful words. Moshe ultimately was the one who completed the work of the Mishkan. And the Torah makes a point of saying that Moshe completed the work of the Mishkan. And therefore the work of the Mishkan is actually Moshe's accomplishment. Clearly it's Moshe's accomplishment. He's the one who gave who brought all the instructions and so forth. But when we talk about the actual action, the final act, Moshe completed that hamlocha. This pasuk that said by Moshe's hamlocha is a statement that there were many things that were done, but who brought about the crown of that action? That was Moshe Rabbeinu. An action does not get crowned until it is in perfect completion, totality. Then it has a crown. Then it's a complete thing. As long as it is not completely complete, it doesn't get crowned as an action.
It would seem like the crown or the makif is present at the beginning and in fact throughout. Otherwise, what are we talking about here? This sort of kesser d'asiya. Yeah, the completion is a special moment, but the overall context is really what holds up the whole project throughout, no?
Your question would seem to be well taken, and the answer to your question is, here is the point to understand. Throughout the entire process, there is the consciousness of the crown. But at that time, the crown is only an aim, an inspiration. I want to bring this to the point of coronation, but you still don't have the crown. Because that ultimately there's going to be significance in this completion. This is why you're inspired to do it at this stage.
There's going to be significance, but you're engaged on account of there being an existing significance. You're saying
I'm sorry.
You're engaged in it because there is an existing significance.
No.
You're saying the significance is only seen at the end.
The only significance only comes up in the end.
It's only manifest, maybe.
No. It's only created at the end.
And how would it get started if it's not there already?
It's projected.
Uh-huh.
So Moshe's completion of the Mishkan is the perfect illustration of what you call kesser de Asiya.
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
That's what the Torah makes a point of expressing this phenomenon. First it says all the different things that Moshe did. It says, Vayichal Moshe Zamloch. I can get a chumash. Be nice to look into it.
Hashem completes making in Kiddush, right? He finishes making the heaven and the earth, right?
Right.
But again, I'm not getting any sense that this completion is the making of the kesser. Maximum, it's like revealing it. But if it's not there, holding up the whole thing all along, I'm really missing it.
All right. That's why we're discussing it.
Okay.
I totally hear you.
What?
Okay.
I totally understand the question. I don't understand it either.
You understand the question?
I don't understand.
Doesn't understand
what does
the
it mean, no
answer.
kesser before? I never heard of it.
All right. First, let's take a look at this pasuk.
What does it mean projected?
Right, but I'm making notes here that it makes the crown. This final moment makes the crown.
Creates it. Yeah.
Creates the crown. Okay?
Yeah, same thing.
This is the crown of the level of action. This is the crown of the level of the seer of action. Let's try and look it up. It's 20. Is it 25?
Oh. Here's the pasuk. Vayichal Moshe. And I would invite you. This is a pasuk. Yeah. Pasuk Lamed. Yomid Gimel. In Pasha Mem. The end of Chumash Shmos.
40:33.
What? Yeah.
40:33.
33. Yeah.
That's a
And if you
40-23.
Chapter 40, verse 33.
if you leave back, there are several pashas that describe all the things that were done. All the way to the point where they were actually presented to Moshe, and Moshe examined what they did, and Moshe was excited to give him a bracha, all kinds of different things. Then the final stage was that Moshe put it together in its place.
Right.
And then it says, "Vaychai Moshe as Amloch."
He set up the courtyard all around the Mishkan and the altar, and he put up the screen at the entrance of the courtyard, and Moses completed the work.
Right. So what did he do that he gets the title of having completed it? This is exactly why I stopped at this, because we're learning that there's a kesser at every level. You understand? Kesser in Sechel, the Sechel that conceptualizes it gets crowned. The Midah is the heart, but the action of bringing it together. Where is there a kesser to that? There's an interesting phenomenon in our day, which we spoke about it under different circumstances. It's called the assembly line. Ford invented the assembly line. Everybody knows what the assembly line is, right? And you don't know what the assembly line is?
It's they would make a car. Each person would have his position, and he would put in a screw or a wheel, and he didn't know really what he was making. He was just doing one small piece, and the cars didn't come out good because they were just.
Well, no, you're going too far. Assembly means that to make anything, to set this table, this room up. To set this room up, you have to have tables, you have to have chairs, and everything has to be in the right place. So you buy all the tables and all the chairs, and then you line it up in a way that you can go and take one table at a time and bring in and put it in the right place. Then the next one, everything comes up in the right time, in the right sequence, until you brought everything in and everything is in the right place. This is what's called assembly line, because you have everything lined up, all the details lined up.
Mm.
So when you are put the tables down, this table and that table, you do not have the idea why this table is in this place. You just know that this table has to go in that place because that's how you were instructed to do it. How this table complements, everyone knows what complement means? How this table complements the entire plan of this room. That everything should be in exactly the way it's being assigned to be. This is a separate thing. This is what ultimately crowns this effort. When everything is in its right place, then you have a completely furnished house. If when these tables were piled up in one corner, or the benches were on top of one, on top of the other, you have everything, but you have nothing.
Are we distinguishing between Ratzain and Kesser then? Because there's a Ratzain the whole time, it would seem, but no Kesser.
No, the kesser and Ratzain is the same thing.
So these mashalim for me are not clarifying the problem or the question. I mean, we've had the house being purchased and the
This is exactly why I stopped on
or
this,
setting
because the
up
Rebbe says
the-
there is a kesser asiyah. And that's why I stopped, because this is not that easy to identify.
Well, in a way, it seemed fairly apparent. Namely, you had the guy with his home, and he conceptualized how the furnishings would appear. So that seemed to be already the context and his ratzon about the room. Then there was the moment of actual bringing in the furnishings. So there seems to already be this crown, this intention, upon riding above the moment of doing the work, of hiring the guys, having them unpack the stuff, positioning the furnishings. And at a certain point it gets, the living room is set up close to the way you want it. And there's a moment of completion, or it's close to ideal, but all along is that original Ratzon, makif, kesser. That's just how I'm hearing it from the beginning of the shir. I'm not hearing anything
No.
different.
This is why I stopped on this, because I
Okay.
know that this is like a difficult thing to read, because
can
it says,
right.
kesser de asiya. What's kesser de asiya? Asiya is the result of Sechel and Midas. Asiya is not an entity unto itself.
Asiya is the result of Sechel and Midas. Right, but Sechel and Midas are driven by something.
Whatever it is, the
surrounding
Sechel and Midas are the ones who are going to identify how you're going to do things.
Is
So there's
Sechel,
no crown to Asiya.
is Sechel and Midas not the crown to Asiya? They are the preceding, they are the makif for your action. Yeah?
They're not makif, there's the
Yeah.
opnimi. They all identify how you're supposed to do things.
But why do you do it? Why do you move?
Why
You're
you
not a
take-
statue.
Why you taking action seems to be the kit. Why are you planning it? This is already the makif, no? The kesser to why you furnishing your home.
Okay.
Is physically installing the furniture the pnimi?
In every company that's worthy of its name, there are different ranks of people who are participating in the running of the company. There are the people who are doing the work, delivering and packing and so forth. Then there are the floor managers who make sure that everything is there is no mess and everything is compiled in the right place and so forth. On top of that, there is what's called the chairman of the board. This chairman of the board hardly does anything, practically speaking. And yet everyone who works for the company knows that they are working for the chairman of the board. What is the significance of this position? There are people who know, who are better engineers than he is. He's not even an engineer. In terms of skill, there are many people who have bigger skills than he does. I once described a phenomenon where people of a company get together, officers in a company get together and they discuss a certain plan. Should we go this way? Should we go this way? And each one has his input to it. Each one comes from his vantage point. One says, if you do it this way, it'll be more profitable. Then this one says, if we do it this way, we'll have it accomplished more quickly. And all kinds of different arguments as to how we should do it. And these meetings can go on ad infinitum until the chairman of the board comes in. And he sits down and he asks, okay, what is the discussion about? They tell him. So he says, here's how you do it. It doesn't produce any kind of reasoning because of this and because of this is going to enhance this. Nothing. He says, here's how you do it. On what basis? On the basis this is how I want it to be done. There's a completely different approach to the whole thing. What is the approach that he has? The approach that he has is he has an idea what his company should be like. Not what you should accomplish. What his company should look like. What is the spirit of his company? At that basis, he says he directs how it should be done. So his decision is not based on any practical argument. It is a statement of will. And all the practical arguments are insignificant when it comes to understanding what he really wants. Why is he building the company in the first place? Why did he undertake this whole effort? Everybody undertook the effort for various reasons. Everybody thought that he was a money maker in one sense. He went into this for a completely different reason. Because he had a chosh, he wanted to innovate something. He has to bring something out, to make a statement. And this is where he is coming from. The statement that he is making is not based on any prior experiences that anybody had. That is the company. A company without a person, with that view, with that projection, will never survive the first challenge. Because when you get together and you have 10 managers, they can't agree on anything. Because it has no purpose, it has no single view of what it is about. You can go in circles and never reach a conclusion. This is the pshat by Chal Moshe Havloch. This complete reality, not how you accomplish it, but the fact that you're going to have a complete reality, this is the most significant element. This is what's called the crown of Asiya. To bring things to completion, and when you bring to completion, you're not alluding to, or this is representing this idea, is representing that idea. It's not representing any idea, it's presenting a final product. Not any ideas at all. And the significance is that it is a final product. It's a real thing. Let me bring this down.
It is what it is.
No. Huh?
It is what it is.
No.
I hear what you're saying. No, I can't really do anything more than that.
A table consists of more than 4 legs. Each leg has its own design, and then there's a method of attaching the legs to the board. There are all kinds of different methodologies involved. How you prepare the board, and so forth. A table does not consist of all the various methods that were involved in attaching the legs to the board.
Right. Okay.
What does a table represent?
The vision.
The principle, a final product, and if the blades are attached perfectly, but there's one leg missing, it's not a table.
Right. So fine. So the chairman of the board in this making the table is to drive home the point that what?
That this is supposed to be a table.
This is supposed to be a table, right? It's meant to be this.
That's his idea.
Right. This.
Nobody else has an idea.
Right.
Everybody is talking about how you're going to attach the leg to the board.
Right, and what their department will and will not do, etc. And inside kesser is kesser d'asiya. That's how we got into it.
Right.
Relates to this process or this result. How now?
Not the result. The final. What is this about? Why is it significant?
Yeah.
Listen,
Right.
it's there's such skill in attaching this board. Who cares?
Right. Okay. So the most I'm getting is that the vision is made manifest at the moment of production.
No. It's not. This is beyond vision.
The kesser,
The asiya is beyond vision.
yes.
You can envision a plan. You can envision a design, but you cannot envision a final product because the final product doesn't exist in your vision.
But we did start with the man in his living room, so he sort of.
The reason that man in his
conceptual.
living room has this final product because he lives there, not because of the plan. Because to him, the living room is a reality.
Right. So that his living there, or that element of kesser, was present before the guys came and moved the furniture in, or not?
I understand why you. I don't like this paraphrasing. But we have to go approach it directly. The actual enactment,
Yeah.
the last moment of bringing this penetration in place, that is what Asiya is about. Moshe Rabbeinu did not do anything in the Malach of Mishkan. Everything was done for him.
Like by Bezalel and everything.
Everything. Not only that, and they all brought it to him, all final in a final product. Moshe only examined it, and Moshe was excited that they did it all the right way. And yet, by how Moshe's Amlocha did, the completion of it is credited to Moshe.
Indicating
That he is the only one who understood what it means to complete it. The significance of completing it.
Yeah, he lived it. He's the chairman of the board.
He did. Before you paraphrase it, think about it. What did Moshe know what Bezalel didn't know?
Tonight.
The fact is that Bezalel did the whole work correct. All right. So just at least we know that it's not that simple.
The putting the pieces in there is being inspired from the Sechel
No.
to do each action. The Sechel has also a Ratzain that says how it's
Sechel
supposed
has
to be.
its own thing. But this is not the Sechel.